Alphabet Man, tearing down the strongholds, exposing the darkness, wrecking the enemy's plans. Endurance till the end. It's time for the Alphabet Man Live.
And good morning, good morning, good morning. I want to thank JR for hosting the show Friday for me. Thank you so much. I was supposed to have my procedure. A lot of people are asking me how the procedure went. Well, I didn't get to have the procedure on Friday because I stayed overnight in Columbus so that I could be next or close to, not next to, but close to the hospital. And then I got snowed in at the hotel. And so I couldn't even leave the hotel until the afternoon because for some reason, Columbus was real slack on getting their roads cleared up and cleaned up. And it's not like they don't get snow, so they don't know how to deal with it, because they do. They just slacked up Friday. So I didn't even get out of the hotel until the afternoon. So that procedure will be rescheduled. But I do have quite a few other appointments this month. So I will have Coach and Tom Dunn and Mark Trump covering some other dates for me this month. Coach Dave will be hosting this Wednesday, the 6th. And then Tom Dunn will be hosting the 11th, the 13th, and the 27th. And Mark Trump will be hosting on the 28th. And so I just want to thank you guys in advance. Christian Life Magazine. They are online, in print, and on the radio. They contacted me to do an interview. They want to do a radio interview and run an article of my testimony. So that's pretty fascinating. And I'm sure I'll have a lot more to share after I call the young lady that I'm supposed to speak to actually schedule things. Guys, I want you to pre-order Fire and Brimstone today. The first 100 orders will receive 2 copies of the film and Vicki Joy Anderson's book, The Emperor's New Gender. So with that said, I want to jump in because I got a lot to cover, and now I was going to cover a lesson. I kind of prepared a lesson, things that a lot of people have been asking me, and I've been having a lot of conversations with some folks on the phone and via email and in person about, and a lot of people that aren't Christian, they're lost and they're seeking. And so we've been having a lot of discussions. And so I wanted to present a lesson today. However, I'm not going to be able to, because I wanted to share a few photos, and while I was sharing them and I'm listening to Coach Dave, and the Holy Spirit was like, you need to go over this agenda that has not only been laid out there before everybody, but has also been accomplished and completed. And so the first 2 photos I'm going to show you, I took myself. And the rest of them are just advertisements that normalize and desensitize. And we're going to get into the desensitization of America in a few minutes. But so the first photo, Deviant Supply, has an upside down cross. The Counterculture Revolution, I think it said. That was a t-shirt. They have a whole display of this Deviant Supply clothing with upside down crosses on it. The next one, I was walking through the mall and I turned and looked, and this is at T-Mobile. 2 men taking a selfie together. And now the rest of the photos are pretty much just advertisements from different malls. That's from Amtrak with the 2 men and a little boy saying kids age 2 to 15 ride for half off. So go get you a boy. So you can ride. And there's 2 women with a little girl. And these are their Amtrak Ride with Pride advertisements. You can go ahead, Jerry. Yeah. The Big Gay Ice Cream Shop. It's a new brand all over. Now this is Target. You know, Target's reaction to people standing up against them promoting abortion, and to people standing up against them promoting transgender bathrooms and letting men go into women's bathroom. Their reaction was to start a Take Pride homosexual clothing line and other things, not just clothing. Here's one of their ads. Be yourself together with 2 men. That's love, it says. That's not love. That's lust. Here you go. Camel cigarettes. You can borrow the Jumper Brother, but not my Camels. This is one of their LGBT ads. They have many of them that I saw, but I figured that one, you know, a Navy man kind of went with the ad. Go ahead, Jared. Yeah.
How does it make sense to advertise to 3% of the population? Like, how is that even a business strategy at all?
3% of the population.
Okay.
That's why I'm always saying that statistics and polls mean absolutely nothing, because it's the deviancy. Oh, look at that, the deviant supply. It's the deviant supply. Just like that clothing line said, deviant supply. It's the deviant supply of the lust of the flesh. It's just deviancy. That's it. So if it's okay for, here's Coors Light, if it's okay for that one woman to kind of try to resemble a man, and the other woman to look like a woman, and them to be together, then it's okay for the married guy who's not going to admit to being part of that 3%, 4% that's claimed. You know, there's so many more that aren't a part of that percent, but they're a part of that movement. So those statistics, they mean absolutely nothing, because in my own experience, I would say that more than half of the men that I came into contact with on a daily basis wouldn't have been a part of that poll or that statistic. More than half. So, but they would have been engaging in that activity. You can go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. You know, Absolute Vodka, their rainbow ad. It's Intimate Basics panties, 3 for $10. Intimate. See, this is all part of the desensitization. So if we understand intimate to mean that we got to go, if we want to be intimate, we got to go out and buy new panties. Go ahead, Jared. Calvin Klein, Von Maur. Intimate apparel excludes the 3 for $33 panties. So it's just telling you that this is Allure intimate apparel. Look in the window. It's all panties and bras and things you're not wearing to go be intimate. You're going to be sexual. That's not intimate. That's probably about it. Yeah, Boscov's intimate apparel. First Pals. Oh, this was a JCPenney ad. 2 dads with 2 kids. See, a little boy and a little girl, they got 2 daddies, and that's okay. It's normal because I see it in the ad. So Levi's with their rainbow Levi's. How many of us wear Levi's? You know, folks, look, we are never, ever going to be, there's a military store with the military and then the rainbow and then the red, white, and blue hat. The American hat with the rainbow outfit and then the military man standing next to him. Rainbow flags all over the military store. So this is all a part of this. We will never be able to boycott all of the businesses. Okay, leave that one picture up there, Jared, the military store, because I want to make a point about that. We will never be able to boycott all of the businesses that promote homosexuality. Okay? However, it's the ones like this. This is not a chain store. This is not a big organization. This isn't a Target. This isn't JCPenney's. This isn't Boscov's. This is a privately owned store. Those are the ones we can get. Those are the ones we can get to. You know, there's a diner here in Mount Vernon, Ohio, that's called Southside. I call it Homicide. I call it Homicide because it's owned. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. It was owned by two homosexuals. So I kind of took their, South Side. I kind of put homo and side next to each other. Homicide, homo, homicide, same thing. So I call it Homicide, and I encourage people not to spend their money there because they're funding a privately owned business by the LGBT that I know what they use their money for. They use their money on drugs and alcohol for boys and teenage boys to lure them in. They use their money on homosexual pornography. And they use their money to promote the LGBTQ movement. So if you spend your money at a business that's owned by homosexuals, then you are furthering the LGBT agenda. You are furthering the molestation and the indoctrination and the brainwashing of your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and your neighbors' children and all your family members' children and all your friends' children. That's what you're doing. You're funding the movement that is recruiting them, yet molesting them and luring them in by going to these small businesses that are owned by homosexuals. And when I say that used to be Southside Diner is now going to be Southside Diner because it's no longer owned by two homosexual men, but it is owned by a husband and a wife team that they actually managed it and now they own it. So it's no longer owned by homosexuals. So now maybe I'll get to go and have some of their food. I don't know why any Christian would go in Target anyway, okay? Because of all that Target stands for and their blatant expression of homosexuality and men and women's bathrooms and promoting and funding abortion. However, we will never be able to boycott all of the businesses and companies that promote homosexuality. Why? Because they are a business and they're in business to make money. They're not in business to fit your moral values. They're not in business to match up to your beliefs or mine. They're in business to make money. Okay? So I'm not going to give nobody a list of companies to boycott. But what I will say is, if you go to these little privately owned small businesses that promote homosexuality, then you're funding the madness. Now, I mean, there's a lot of people, you don't have to go to Target. I got a few people that I know that are Christian that go to Target, and I don't understand how you could go to Target. I don't understand how you could go in there and spend one dime in a store that hates Christians, in a store that the organization itself, the board of directors, hates Christians, hates God. I don't understand it. I don't understand how somebody could go into Burger King and they have a Pride Whopper wrapped in the homosexual rainbow wrapper. Well, I really needed a burger. Well, go to the store, buy some hamburger, go home, fry it up. There's a lot of things that we spend our money on that we don't need to be spending our money on. We don't need a burger from Burger King. We don't need a bag of Rainbow Pride Doritos. We don't need a pair of rainbow promoting Levi's. We definitely don't need no intimate apparel. You see, it's all part of this is all in public view. And it's all in public view because it's designed to desensitize each one of us, especially your children and your grandchildren. Because when your children or your grandchildren see a picture where they're smiling and laughing and having a good old time, and it's two daddies, and that's going to be normal for your child. No matter what you tell your child at home, no matter what you're telling your child, no matter what you're teaching your child, as long as you are spending your money on these things, as long as you are allowing your child to endure to see these advertisements, as long as you go take your child to the mall to go see an intimate apparel in the window. Because I'll tell you what, I walked through the mall and I couldn't believe, because every single storefront that I walked by, every mannequin, they had on clothing that I used to try to make out of other clothing so I could work the streets. So now they're putting your daughters and your granddaughters and some of your sons and grandsons in clothing that makes it look like they're out there working the corner, because that's what they're ultimately doing. They're working and they're being pimped by the system. They're being pimped by the board, the Beelzebub, by the whole, by the movement. So the parents that are allowing their children to wear this clothing, the parents that are allowing their children to go to these events, the parents that are allowing their children and promoting their children's deviant lust of their flesh are pimping their children out. You know, Desmond, oh yeah, his unparents, they're pimping him out. This little Mayhem or what's his name? Yeah, but I don't want to use them names. I actually I posted something on our Facebook a few days ago, and I kind of called it out because there's, you know, I don't know, did Coach show the video of the little boy here in Lancaster, Ohio? Yeah. So that little boy, his mother is a child protective services worker, believe it or not. So that little boy, Jacob Measley, and then this one that you're showing now, Jared, that's Nemis Quinn from Canada, and Desmond Napolis. Their parents, their unparents, are pimping their children out. Their children, see, when your child sees that, it don't matter what you said, because now they see it and they can believe it and they can feel it. And once their thoughts and feelings match up with the lust of their flesh, then all hell is going to break loose, because you done lost them. These little boys, their parents are pimping them out. But why? Because We've been desensitized to think that nothing is wrong. And how did this all come about? Let's look. In 1987, and we know that it goes back way before that. I think the 50s is when the movement actually got aggressive and began. However, in 1987, an article was written called The Overhauling of Straight America. This is an agenda. It gives an agenda. It gives an outline as to how to desensitize America. And it says the first order of business is desensitization of the American public concerning gays and I'm not going to use the word, concerning homosexuals and homosexual rights. To desensitize, I think I sent it to, yeah, there you go. To desensitize the public is to help it view homosexuality with indifference instead of with keen emotion. Ideally, we would have heterosexuals register differences in sexual preference the way they register different tastes for ice cream or sports games. She likes strawberry and I like vanilla. He follows baseball and I follow football. No big deal. So when they started adding the, are you homosexual, heterosexual, bisexual, transsexual, or unsexual, asexual, no sexual, thinking about getting sexual, when they started adding all these little blocks, because contrary to popular belief, we are all heterosexual. All homosexuals are heterosexual. All pedophiles are heterosexual. All transgenders, all liars, all cheaters, all thieves, all adulterers, we're all heterosexual. It's the same way as that we are either male or female in our DNA because it's in our makeup. In that same way, we are all heterosexual because it's in our design, it's in our makeup. It's who we are. There is no opposite to our design. There is no opposite to our makeup. See, that's what the enemy's trying to do. That's where this transhumanism is leading. So we are heterosexual. So they started adding all these little blocks so we could feel like we had a choice. We don't have a choice. See, we can go back to the article, Jared, and kind of stay on that. At least in the beginning, now this is with the homosexual agenda. And we're at the overhauling of straight America. At least in the beginning, we are seeking public desensitization and nothing more. We do not need and cannot expect a full appreciation or understanding of homosexuality from the average American. You can forget about trying to persuade the masses that homosexuality is a good thing. But if only you can get them to think that it is just another thing with a shrug of their shoulders, then your battle for legal and social rights is virtually won. And to get to shoulder shrug stage, homosexuals as a class must cease to appear mysterious, alien, loathsome, and contrary. A large-scale media campaign will be required in order to change the image of homosexuals in America. And any campaign to accomplish this turnaround should do 6 things. Now, here's where they're going to lay it out for you. Number 1, talk about homos and homosexuality as loudly and as often as possible. See, the principle behind this advice is simple. Almost any behavior begins to look normal if you are exposed to enough of it at close quarters and among your acquaintances. The acceptability of the new behavior will ultimately hinge on the number of one's fellows doing it or accepting it. One may be offended by its novelty at first, many in times past were momentarily scandalized by streaking, eating goldfish, and premarital sex. See, those things are, no one's offended by them things anymore, right? And they even have reality TV shows where people are doing those things and they're promoting it. And they're adoring it. See, but as long as Joe Sixpack feels little pressure to perform likewise, and as long as the behavior in question presents little threat to his physical and financial security, he soon gets used to it and life goes on. The skeptic may still shake his head and think people are crazy these days, but over time, his objections are likely to become more reflective, more philosophical, less emotional. Desensitization, y'all, at its best. The way to benumb raw sensitivities about homosexuality is to have a lot of people talk a great deal about the subject in a neutral or supportive way. Open and frank talk makes the subject seem less furtive, less alien, less sinful, more above board. See, open and frank talk makes the subject, homosexuality, sexualization of children, pedophilia, makes the subject seem less furtive, less alien, and less sinful. See, they know what's right and wrong. There is no escaping the very fact that it's sinful. And they've even admitted as much right here in this documentary. So, right here in their agenda, I should say, in this article. Okay. Constant talk builds the impression that public opinion is at least divided on the subject and that a sizable segment accepts or even practices homosexuality. See, we believe that it's 2%, 3%, 4% of the population. Why? Why would we be doing all of this advertising for just 4% of the population? Jared asked that very question. Because it's not 4% of the population. It's a sizable segment that accepts and even practices the, back up there in the sentence before that, sinful behavior. Folks, we are not up against 4% of the population, although 4% would still be a whole lot of people of the entire population, but we're not up against 4%. I think it's 4% up against 96%. Because there's a whole lot of people out there. There's a whole lot of dads, unparents, that are allowing their little boys to dress like little girls. Why? Are they allowing their son to live what they always wanted to live? Are they allowing their son to become something that satisfies their own deviant sexual lusts? Are these men who call themselves fathers, these unparents, are these unfathers preying on their own children, on their own little boys? Are they allowing their little boy to wear a little Catholic school outfit because now they don't have to search for that young schoolgirl porn online anymore because it's right there in their own home? See, that's my question to these unparents. What are your ulterior motives of allowing your children to be sexualized and pimping your children out? Lord willing, we'll pick this up tomorrow. God bless you guys. I love you. Peace.